Hi, everyone. Hopefully you guys can see me. I look a little different. My birthday's next week and I'm going home to the 305. So I did my hair for first time I put heat on my hair in like 2 years. So hopefully it doesn't look like too bad. So yeah, how are all of you? It's my first live by myself. So I'm sorry it's a little bit late. I was trying to figure out all the technical stuff. So let me know if you can hear me and I will go ahead and pour the wine. Still drinking. Hey, Jace, still drinking McBride Sisters. So I've been trying reds. I'm trying, y'all. Y'all know I'm like a middle-aged Pinot Grigio woman. I like Pinot, but I'm trying. Apparently red is better for you. So today we are going to talk about a few things that I've been meaning to talk about for a while. Oh, thank you, Jace. For a while, which is the Diet Prada and Dolce & Gabbana lawsuit. And then specifically, in my opinion and in general, you can't talk about this lawsuit without addressing the rise in anti-Asian violence here in the US and across the world. So I wanted to talk about both. So good, everyone can hear me. Awesome. I'm glad you guys don't think it looks too crazy. That my hair. I like the big, so I try to make the curls very big because bigger is better to me. But yeah, so I made a presentation for us, which shout out to Kimberly from For Harriet. I'm obsessed with her channel. I saw she did a live and she did Google Slides, and I was like, oh, that's super smart. So then I can pace myself, and then you guys can still get the full experience of seeing the lawsuit, and we can read it together. So I'm going to try and share my screen, and hopefully this works. And if not, that is going to be a huge pain in the butt. So let's see. Application window. Okay. Where is it? See? Again, being a huge pain in the butt. Where is the presentation? Okay. Hold on 1 second. Maybe I need to separate out the presentation. Okay. Let's try this now. Share. Okay, application window. Here we go. Oh, I forgot. I'm sitting in front of my heater, so that's what that noise is. Okay, so let me know. Oh, good. There's my presentation. Well, look at that. Learning things every day. As a tech attorney, I'm very shameful in that I understand tech, but me trying to do it myself, as y'all know, is a mess. Okay, cool. So can you guys, if I share, then I can't see you. Let me see. When I clicked into it, did you guys see everything? Happy Friday. Oh, yes, Solange. I love Solange. Did you guys see the full presentation when I press present, or what happened? Just because I can't see what you're seeing. Are the slides working? Let me know. If they're working, we'll just go forward. Yes? Okay. So I'm going to go back into them. And then I'll probably periodically come out just to make sure they are working. And if not, then you guys let me know. Okay, perfect. So we are going to go through Diet Prada versus Dolce & Gabbana with first a little bit of background if you're not familiar with who is who. So yes, this is Dolce & Gabbana themselves. It's their last name. So our agenda is going to be a little bit of case background. I live for receipts, some receipts. We're going to talk about forum shopping. And then finally, most importantly, in my opinion, we are going to talk about the rise in anti-Asian violence. Okay, so what is going on? Who is Diet Prada? In case you're not familiar, Diet Prada is one of my favorite Instagram pages. They're so interesting. And we're going to go into a little bit about their background and what they do and basically what happened in this case. So a bit of background, which is Diet Prada is a blog. They started as a blog. They run the Diet Prada Instagram, which many of you are probably familiar with, fashion, etc. LOL. They are very good proponents of being anti-racist. They basically call out all of the fashion houses equally, stating hey, I noticed that, Gucci, for example, because they're going to come up later, that looks like Dapper Dan to me. Did you credit that man? Did you pay that man? So they're very big on people making sure that people are being held accountable. So that's one of the biggest things for them. So I also realized, okay, you can see, I think I might just do it like this. So that way I can still see, because I keep getting nervous that you guys can't see it. Okay, so that's what Diet Prada does. So this is what happened. Now, Dolce & Gabbana is suing them because they reposted an advertisement that a lot of people, particularly the Chinese public, thought was very racist. Dolce & Gabbana then took the advertisement down 24 hours later. Diet Prada refused to take it down, which I agree with them. They shouldn't have to take it down, and I'm going to drop it for you guys right here. So You guys can watch it as well. So this was the ad. Basically, the ad portrayed Chinese people as being very ignorant, not knowing how to eat Italian food. Is very rude, to be honest. It's very rude. It's tone deaf at best, and then at worst, it is racist. So I always try to explain people, as you guys know, we talked about this in the Meghan and Harry case. Like, my background when I was in college is in sociology. So that was my question too, Jace, how they're basically using fair use to use the Diet Prada name, but we'll talk about that as well, because Prada obviously is a very famous brand. So basically, the reason I just want to get this out there in the beginning, because maybe you'll watch and you're like, oh, I think it's funny, or, oh, like, I don't see what the offense is. To be honest, and to be very frank, the offense is not with you if you don't identify as the person being maligned. The offense is basically to be defined by the maligned person. So if, the Chinese public and Asian people saw it and were like, this is offensive, I think it's racist, then it's racist. It doesn't matter if Dolce & Gabbana was like, oh, I was just joking. That's irrelevant. That's completely irrelevant. I personally do think it was racist. So Dolce & Gabbana then took it down. And the reason that they took it down, they were like, oh, okay, well, they said it's offensive, we're going to take it down. It didn't end there. So they were supposed to do this was 2018, if I'm remembering correctly. They were supposed to do this huge runway show in Shanghai. They then canceled the show because people were very upset about it and were like, well, I'm not buying your stuff. China, being the world's largest, most populous country in the world, and also having a lot of high earning people, they make up about, according to Dolce & Gabbana, 1/3 of their profits. So it was a huge loss for them, according to D&G. And then the way this escalated, and I will again, I love some receipts. Send this. This is also on the Diet Prada Instagram. Allegedly, according to what happened, and not allegedly, somebody from Gabbana's account sent these very harmful, very racist, had this very racist tirade of a conversation with a dieter. So dieters are what Diet Prada calls their fan base, who basically called them out and was like, hey, like, this ad you ran is racist. We don't like it. So we don't like it. So Dolce & Gabbana then proceeded to be like, I don't know where that came from. We were hacked. So let me make sure. Can you guys see that I changed it on here? Yep. So we were hacked, and it's bothering me that it looks like this, but next one, I'm going to figure out how to do both. I need two screens. So we were hacked. We didn't say any of those things. So from a legally correct perspective, it came from their account. And we cannot fully prove at this point in time who sent it. Somebody from their account sent it. Whether or not it's them, the lawsuit will tell that. So that is basically the whole background of what happened. Then proceeding to the actual lawsuit and the $600 million that, according to the Associated Press, D&G is now trying to sue Diet Prada for, which is completely asinine. I don't know how they got that number. They allege that they have lost $600 million worth of money because the Chinese public is like, listen, we're not buying your crap anymore. And other people in support of them have decided over the past few years, like, okay, well, we're not buying it. So in my opinion, this number that they came to is very asinine. And I think they got to that number to basically silence them. So we're going to go through I forgot to mention this at the beginning, so my fault. I'm going to go through the whole case, and then we're going to do calls, and then we're going to go to the second half and talk about the rise of anti-Asian violence. So the reason why this is important, so for context, Diet Prada does call out racism on any levels against anyone, particularly why I think it's extremely even more offensive that D&G is suing them is that Tony is Asian American. So Tony and Lindsay did found Diet Prada, and I'm not going to say their last names, to be honest, because I spent about 10 minutes searching how to properly say both last names, and I got a bunch of different variations. So I want to make sure to be respectful, and when I do get it right, to say it properly. So Tony and Lindsay, so this was Tony's statement, and I'm just going to read it for you guys because it might be a little bit small on your screen. As an Asian American, I'm part of a community that is often misrepresented. Like many people of color in the United States, there's pain that stems from seeing ourselves depicted through inaccurate, harmful stereotypes. Often it leads to racism and violence, which we have just seen on Tuesday. It does lead to racism and violence. Growing up as a queer person of color in a predominantly white town, I've often found myself intimidated and at a loss for words when confronted with racism and bigotry. Having cultivated Diet Prada as a platform where stereotypes are laid bare and stories from the larger BIPOC community, so BIPOC is Black, Indigenous, people of color, are brought to the fore is one of the things I'm most proud of. So he then goes on, I'm just going to skip down. Well, actually, I'll just read the whole thing. For 2 years, I've stayed silent. So this lawsuit has been going on for a while and carried the burden of this lawsuit on my shoulders. During this time, the world was forced to reckon with the systemic racism in the US that led to the murder of George Floyd and countless other Black lives, with a capital B, yes, as well as a xenophobia that further fueled Trump's anti-Asian rhetoric in the age of COVID-19. In the outpouring of support for these communities being targeted, we all continue to see the power of solidarity in speaking truth to power. Diet Prada will continue to be a platform to elevate these crucial issues. So I really appreciated that he made that statement and that he didn't suffer in silence. There's often in communities of color, particularly having spoken with a lot of my friends about this, particularly in Asian communities, this idea that, oh, well, I can't bring it up. It's shameful. I shouldn't say anything. So I'm very proud of him for saying it and showing that, hey, this giant is bullying me and I have done nothing besides report on it, as he's a journalist and a reporter. So we are going to go on now to a little bit more about the case. So I know you guys love receipts and I love receipts as well. So I took some screenshots from the case. So the complaint is for defamation, which is going to be very interesting to see how this plays out. For context, because we've covered defamation and I'm sure you're wondering like, oh, this should just get thrown out. It would if it was in the United States. So we're going to get to forum shopping, which right after we go through some of the receipts, but basically they have decided to sue in Italy. And in Italy, they have differing laws, which we're going to go through why defamation is different there. So one of the things that they are trying to prove is Dolce & Gabbana basically stated like, hey, you are targeting us, this small blog, which it's not small, it's 2 million followers, but in comparison to Dolce & Gabbana, it's significantly smaller. You, this small blog, have mobilized all of your followers to cause $600 million of damages, et cetera, et cetera. You're doing it on purpose, to which these are all from the response that Diet Prada sent back. So Diet Prada basically is trying to illustrate like, actually, we're not new to this. We're true to this. We call everybody out. It's not just you. You're not that special. Hate to break it to you. So we're going to talk about, so we can just go down to on the left-hand side, paragraph 12. So on one occasion, the denunciation of Gucci's appropriation of the iconic patterns of the designer, New Yorker Dapper Dan, which is what I had mentioned, the Fiesole, I think that's how you say it, fashion house began a fruitful collaboration with the same, thanks to which he gave new visibility to the brand and restarted his atelier in Harlem. So then paragraph 13, so this talking about like, here are the multiple examples of what they do, what Diet Prada does. So on another occasion, Diet Prada echoed the fact that Prada's and Gucci's products recall the same satiric and traditionally racist stereotypes of blackface. Do y'all remember this when they put like the caricature on the women wearing the what do you call those things? Like a ski mask that basically was like a monkey with like very big lips. This one I'm buying. Well, I don't have any money, but if I have, when I get some money and I'm done paying off my student loans, I'm still not buying from them. Products recall the satiric and traditionally racist stereotypes of blackface, and this led to brands to create committees on diversity and inclusion. So basically, in all of this, they're saying like, hey, we have been doing this work. We've been calling people out, and there are positive effects of this, which is for better or for worse, or how much you see the change. But these big fashion houses saying like, hey, okay, we are going to change our behavior. We're going to try. We're going to, at least make a diversity and inclusion board, which it's a start. It's a start. So paragraph 14, the commitment to promote an inclusive fashion sector was accentuated after public protests triggered by the killing of George Floyd and by facing the anti-Asian and xenophobic feelings triggered by the COVID-19 pandemic and the racist rhetoric that had characterized Trump's administration. So we're going to skip down to 16. Today, Diet Prada relies on a number of reasons, clearly coming mainly from English-speaking countries, and in particular from the United States, Great Britain, and Australia. In essence, Diet Prada pursues the public intent to denounce deficiencies in originality, plagiarism, and ethically incorrect behavior of fashion houses so as to allow consumers to know the real value pursued by the atelier and to increase their awareness. So everything here is something that they've been doing. Nothing, shouldn't voice their narrow-minded opinions, exactly wind fire. It's very interesting to see that instead of going the route of Prada, of Gucci, and saying like, okay, we're in the wrong, like, yeah, we were a little bit trifling, like, let's try, or let's put on the facade of trying. D&G was like, I'm just going to sue you. which they are suing them. Obviously, Diet Prada, I'm sure they're doing well, but they don't have $600 million. They don't. They're suing them to silence them because they want them, in my opinion, they want them to go away. They don't want anybody to know what they did. And it's like, people are not going to forget. Like, this is just going to make you look worse. So to be honest, I don't think this is well thought out on their end. And it's just further proving the point that you have done what people perceive to be racist things. Just because you say you're not a racist doesn't make you not a racist. Like, I don't know when people are going to start understanding that. So a large portion of this, the response to the complaint was just receipts, just examples of racist. I think you guys were in the comments talking about one as well, just examples of awful things that Dolce & Gabbana has said over the years. So I'm not going to read all of them because I don't want to ruin your Friday night. But I will read, just a few of them. So let's go to paragraph 35. So that's the top of it. And also I borrowed this quote. I can't remember which lawsuit that we did, where it said it didn't say alleged, but it said by way of illustration and not by limitation, which has been like my favorite thing. And I've been waiting to just say it for no apparent reason. So now is my time. So paragraph 35, for example, in 2007, the Dolce & Gabbana brand had been criticized for advertising campaign in which a man was shown who immobilized a woman on the ground, holding her by the wrist in the front of the indifferent looks of other men. Basically insinuating like, oh, well, you have no agency, like I'm the man, like sexist nonsense as usual. So we're going to do paragraph 38, which I don't remember. I remember when 35 happened, that paragraph. 38, I don't, because I was like in law school then. But I think that's kind of like what you guys are talking about in the comments. So I haven't got to look at paragraph 38 in 2015. Moreover, the present plaintiffs defined children born from in vitro fertilization as synthetic beings, and they took sides against the adoption of children by homosexual couples. And then they list the article, which, again, it's one thing to be problematic and it's one thing to be why do you care what other people are doing? But also, why do you care to then demonize people when you're just being an ass for no reason? So basically, there are literally, and I'll link as usual when this gets uploaded, I'll link the response to the complaint for you. There's 47 pages. So if you ever get bored and you want to read it, 30 of those 47 pages are just receipts of them just saying wild stuff for no reason. So paragraph 39, the direct consequence of these latest statements was that a large group of famous people distanced themselves from the Dolce & Gabbana brand. Elton John declared on that occasion that he would never wear D&G branded clothes again. So a lot of people have slowly been distancing themselves, according to Diet Prada, from D&G because they want to say problematic things and just cause issues. So Monique lawsuit. I think so too, because I remember when I was reading it and I was like, oh, this is great. The lawyers from Monique I liked a lot. I like a spicy writing. My favorite was the lawyers from Migos. I thought that they had the spiciest writing. I was like, oh yes, I can deal with this. So now we're going to talk a little bit about forum shopping. So forum shopping is not as fun as real shopping. Real shopping is much more fun. Forum shopping is basically how this works, which let me see if okay, remove. Oh, here we go. So forum shopping is a new concept for us that we haven't gone over. Basically, forum shopping means I am going to select and look around for the judge that I want and the venue that I want. So how does this work in a court case? So with a court case, you have the option of jurisdiction. So jurisdiction means where is your case going to be heard and what law is going to be applied to this case. So usually jurisdiction will work, like, for example, if I were to get into a car accident here in New York and the other person lives in New York, the jurisdiction would be in New York because A, the accident occurred in New York. So where did the harm occur? I am a resident of New York. If they are driving a car in New York, let's just say, for example, they're also a resident in New York. That's very simple. With a contract, for example, it can be a little bit different. So for example, like when I negotiate contracts and say like the opposing party is a California entity, they're not going to want to agree to do litigation in New York because A, that's costly. Maybe we have varying laws that aren't favorable to them. So maybe we'll agree on Delaware because, maybe that's a neutral jurisdiction. So things like that. In this case, what Dolce & Gabbana did was instead of suing the US, because in the US, the truth is an absolute bar. an absolute defense to defamation. They were like, where can we sue where we actually might have a chance of winning? Because they wouldn't have lost in the US. They would have gotten the case thrown out immediately. They decided to sue in Italy, which we're going to go over the difference between US defamation law and Italian law, because this was very new to me and very interesting. So in terms of forum shopping, and let me pull this back up, basically what is happening, in my opinion, Italy isn't the proper forum for this. The harm occurred, so like, where did the post get made? Where's all this occurring? The harm occurred technically in New York because Diet Prada is based in New York. Or if we're being, where's the harm realized? Dolce & Gabbana is saying like, hey, we lost all these billions, millions of dollars, $600 million to be exact. We lost this in the Chinese market in China. So then either the harm is happening in China or the harm is happening in New York. What harm happened in Italy? Who lives in Italy? Just the two of them, just Dolce & Gabbana. And also they have a subsidiary of the company, which is, don't quote me because I forgot to write it down specifically. But for example, it's like Dolce & Gabbana China Limited. That's not exactly what it is. I don't remember, but something of that nature. It's not just all under D&G brand. So there's no reason for it to be in Italy besides them being like, oh, this is the one place where I can maybe get some money and shut them up. So this is from the answer to the complaint, where basically the lawyers, which they are represented by the Fashion Law Institute of Fordham, is representing them for free, which is really great. They have a great pro bono program. If any of you guys are interested in fashion law, Fordham is like very notable, very noted for that. Great law school. So paragraph 2. So then it says, defective jurisdiction. So this is just the header, but the header basically captured everything. So defective jurisdiction in favor of the court of the state of New York, or in the alternative of the court of Shanghai. The Italian court does not have the authority to adjudicate the formulated question. The alleged unlawful act was committed in New York and the event's effects were outside of Italian jurisdiction, which is correct. Nothing happened in Italy. So why is this being held in Italy? Which onto this is why. So basically, like I was saying, in the US, the truth is an absolute defense for defamation. So they would have got laughed out of court. The judge would have been like, what do you want for this? Like, did you or did you not make this advertisement? Okay, goodbye. Did you or did you not send these Instagram messages? Like there, maybe then they could be like, no, I didn't send them. Okay, well, who sent them? I don't know. Well, I don't know is not really going to do you any good in court. But in Italy, it's very different. Italy is one of the few countries where defamation is both a civil and criminal offense, which I spent like probably too much time because I was just like, why is this a thing? Looking that up, because it's not here in the US. It's just a civil offense. People go to jail. They literally jail journalists occasionally. And they're now, I think as of 2020, we're not in 2022, Lord. As of 2020, people are trying to have that law overturned because it's not fair and they really don't want people to be put in jail just for being a journalist. And they target journalists allegedly because they don't want people to speak out on certain things, which I had no idea this was going on. So in Italy, for defamation, the truth is only a component of the defense, which is very interesting. And by component, it is, you can say the truth if you want, but did you also harm somebody in your truth? And it's like, but if it's the truth, like, what does it matter? What does it matter if it's the truth? If you posted the ad, you posted the ad. Like, what does it matter to me if I reposted it and you just happen to be the ass that posted the ad? Which I find very interesting. You have to do it. They use this concept called justification. So you have to do it in a basically like a kind manner. Like, I realize you posted this and so there was a lot of language used in the response to the complaint saying like, hey, like everyone in the blogging world writes in a cheeky manner, like it's not directing it at you because they take like great offense to you writing something as if it's malicious, which I think is like very interesting and probably a bit antiquated. So with that is the entirety of the case. So now let me see, because y'all know how I am with this, I'm like, last time Justin was helping me. So I'm like, where is the number to let y'all call in if you want to? Okay, hold on. StreamYard is sharing a window. Okay, stop sharing. Okay, here we go. Invite. All right. So if you want to call in, we're going to do like some calls and then we are going to move to the next portion. So don't be shy. Grab your wine. Let's have a conversation. I want to know your thoughts on what you think about the case. Like, who do you think is likely to win? Do you think it's going to get thrown out? I think it's going to be really interesting because this is Italian law. So I'm very curious to see how their courts react to it. Like, how does this look in the public sphere of the world of fashion? Do they will Italy side with them, or because it's an Italian company, or are they more likely to side with the blog, which is going to be very interesting. So, all right. So I will wait until if you guys don't want to call in now, that's totally fine. We'll move into the next segment. And then if you guys feel like calling in, you call in, let me know. Oh, I knew Jace would let me down. Here, go, Jace. All right. Add to stream. Hello, how are you?
What's up, fam?
How you doing, boo?
I'm good.
Also, pause 1 second. You changed your avatar on YouTube, and I was like, "Who is this?" And I was like, and then you were like, "Oh, I'm not gonna make comments while I watch." And I was like, "Somebody replace Jace. What's happening? I'm gonna go call her." I was very alarmed. So I just want to let you know.
No, that was me. I was actually working on some picture stuff, and I had made that. I was actually making album covers because music producer and everything. I'm so fabulous. But I had made that one, but my friend said another one looked better. So it's just well, better not put this one to waste. So that's why I changed it.
Yes, use it. Use the creative. Use the content, as I'm learning. How are you? So what do you think? What are your thoughts on this case? Have you been following it? Because I know it's been going on for a while, and y'all know I'm a little bit behind. So it's been going on for 2 weeks. For 2 weeks, it's been on my list.
So actually,
2 weeks in the public sphere, just to clarify that part, because it's been going on for 2 years. But yes, back to you.
When you had mentioned it in your video, that was my first time hearing about it. But I was just tale as old as time. Racists are mad that they're being called out as racist. What's new?
It's so interesting to sue someone for calling you a racist. It's that's not changing the fact that people feel like you're a racist. That's proving the point that you have the caucasity and the gall.
Exactly. And it's in today's world, it's so funny to me how people recognize racism is bad. But then they don't want to stop being racist. No, they want you to not say anything about it. And it's just sweetheart, I'm too black for that.
It's ridiculous. And also whoever sent those messages from that account had very strong views about Chinese people, about Asian people that were incorrect, misplaced, aggressive, racist. And it was you didn't see that this video would lead somebody, if it wasn't you, allegedly, to feel that way. You're portraying people as foolish, as not understanding cultural norms, as not simply understanding how to eat a cannoli. Everyone knows how to eat a cannoli. It's not special.
It's really not. It's really not. And it's just funny to me because it's racists are always, bigots in general, but we're talking about racists, but racists are always going to expose themselves eventually. Mm-hmm. You don't have to wait very long, or you just kind of have to keep your eyes open. And people, they love to gaslight people. They love to be oh, you're looking too deep into it. Oh, you're doing too much. Mm-hmm. But then it's 2 weeks later when they're over here, I don't know, when they're over here posting little kids in monkey suits, or am I going to say this one? Yes, I'm going to say this one. Over here.
Don't get me demonetized.
No. It's not I'm not going to say specifics. I'm not going to cuss. I'm not going to say nothing like that. But, sampling anti-Black mass murderers for flex songs. Any K-pop fans in the chat will know exactly who I'm talking about. But I'm
not familiar. And for once, I'm glad I'm not familiar. I'm that sounds like that will raise my blood pressure.
Oh, it did. It raised mine. I literally sat there in disbelief. This actually happened.
It's ridiculous. Well, that is a good segue. I'm going to raise y'all blood pressure for a little bit because I think it is important to have this conversation. If you see something, say something. So I just wanted to talk about the history of the U.S.'s history of anti-Asian violence that they have perpetuated for a long time, and talk about the events on Tuesday. So we are going to go ahead and move into that. Thank you so much, Jace, for calling in. I appreciate you.
I appreciate you.
All right. I'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Also, before I make y'all depressed, here's my regular. If you feel like helping me with my student loans, I'm getting better at this. I'm like, I should just, tell people. You can. There's Super Chat. I don't know how it works. I'm going to be honest. There's like a button there, I think, and it will give me some of the money. So if you want to support the channel, fun fact, the faster I pay off my student loans, the more content y'all will get. Which will be good. And then if you guys want to cash at me for my help, it will all go towards my student loans, which, as you guys know, I'm paying off. I started at $304,000. I've paid off. Technically, I paid off $70,000 last year, but $61,000 of it went towards the principal. So I'm getting there, working my way towards being rid of them and being free. I've just paid off Sallie Mae, so all I have is Fed loan now. So I'm super excited about that. So with that, we are going to go now. Let me figure out if I can figure out how to do this. We are going to talk about the rise of anti-Asian violence here in the US specifically, even though, yes, correct, it is happening across the world. So I want to acknowledge that as well. So y'all know me. I want to start with the history, with my sociology background, because it is important to, remind people that this is nothing new. And I'm going to, because you guys did say it worked, I'm going to just do like full present mode, and then hopefully it's working, and then I'll come back in. So that way you guys, so you can see and you can read everything. Okay. So a quick historical look back. So the Page Act of 1875 is actually the first documented anti-Asian law, which predates the Chinese Exclusion Act here in the United States. So it prohibited unfree laborers, which unfree laborers to me sounds like an indentured servant or a slave, an enslaved person. So it's interesting that it specifically titled them unfree laborers, because they didn't want to acknowledge the awful thing they were doing. And women brought to the US for quote unquote immoral purposes. So the law was mainly directed at Chinese women. During that time, there were lots of, I think they still called them cartoons back then, cartoon depictions and drawings, which were extremely racist and painted Chinese women often as sexual objects, which, as we have seen this week, that stereotype is still being perpetrated against Asian women, which part of the issue that is currently happening is both misogyny and racism. So I think it's important to note that. And then second, so the Chinese Exclusion Act, which most people are familiar with here in the United States, prohibited Chinese immigration to the United States, which was interesting. It wasn't all of a sudden like, America's full, like we can't take anybody else. It was, we have space, but not for those people. So America, and we have seen that with, 45, the former president, it is America has space, but only for people that look quote unquote American, only for people that fit into what we want American to look like, which is highly inaccurate and foolish and problematic, to say the least. And then the third thing I wanted to mention is the Japanese internment camps during World War II, which are often swept under the rug, which forced American citizens, so people that were citizens and people from Japan that had been naturalized of Japanese descent, into relocation and forced incarceration. So America has for a long time perpetrated these things against the Asian community and the Asian American community with impunity, to be honest, with impunity. Which today has manifested itself, unfortunately. The former U.S. president, and I wrote his name there trying to, repeatedly referred to COVID-19 as China flu and other racist names. And I really don't want to read that, to be honest. Asking the why of it, I know is pointless, but the question always begs why. Like, what drives somebody to be so hateful for no reason? The second point there I wanted to make, so violence against Asians and Asian Americans has spiked in the US more than 150%, and more so in large cities such as NYC and San Francisco. I live in New York. It has been a very huge uptick in violence, particularly against older Asian people, which that's disgusting to me. Any type of person, first of all, you shouldn't be attacking people. That's disgusting. Second of all, you shouldn't be attacking people that are elderly, like respect your elders, but it also shows the cowardice of it, that people are purposely attacking older people that are just sitting there minding their business, living their life. And unfortunately, a few of these elderly people have died. So people have committed murder against older Asians for no particular reason, besides the fact that they want to be racist. And I think it's only fair to say by people, I mean, it has been both Black and white male perpetrators that have done this, which we do need to have a separate conversation. And maybe we can have a conversation now as to the very nuanced relationship between the Black community and the Asian community, because there can be, and there has been historically, actually a lot of support that seems to get lost. And the myth of the model minority has driven a wedge that is completely unnecessary, in my opinion. So, on Tuesday, on March 6th, 6 Asian women were targeted and murdered at their place of work. They worked in a massage parlor by a white man. In total, he murdered 8 people. And I think it's important to note during the press conference, directly after these murders took place, the police chief stated, "Oh, he's having a bad day," which he's a murderer. All of a sudden we learned so much about his life. He's having a bad day. The police chief specifically stated, "Oh, this is not racially motivated." Nobody asked that. And obviously it is. You targeted Asian women. It's racially motivated. It was misogyny on 10. There were so many issues there. So I think that it's very important to highlight these issues and why it's being highlighted, particularly with this case, because of the timing of everything, but also because not just the timing, it is the evidence that dehumanizing people by showing racist stereotypes and tropes and things of that nature, you allow people to think that, hey, it's fine that I think these people act this way, and it's fine that I don't see them as valuable. And it's the same thing that people do with the Black community. It's fine that I say whatever little thing and that blackface and I want to put on all these other things. So I'm looking through some of the comments. He admitted that he had sex addiction, that he would go there first. Yeah. So his alleged addiction, because I'm not too inclined to believe a murderer. Sorry, is basically also showing that the hypersexualization of Asian women has caused this, and the idea that in American society we have never said anything. I'm not saying you're saying that he was right for that, but it is showing that people are super desensitized to it. Let me go back to the slides again. The Page Act of 1875. So since 1875, the US has decided to be like, oh yeah, those women over there, just doing all types of things. And this idea has persisted since, I hate math, 25, then we're in 1900, over 140 something years. And it's the same thing, I just couldn't help myself and blah, blah, blah. It's the misogyny of it. It's the racism of it. It's this idea that people are literally minding their business at work, doing their job, regardless of what their job is, which is nobody's business. There's a lot of people trying to dehumanize these women and saying oh, why did you work there? That's irrelevant. That's none of your business. Also, what's not being talked about, as an immigrant myself, there are 2 types of immigrants that come here. And, I will be very honest, my family, they lived in an attic when they moved here, but they had community economics. They didn't live there that long. Then my family bought their house, and they all lived in this nice house after they lived in an attic for a year. Some people come here by themselves. So when you come here by yourself, you're often coerced into situations that you wouldn't necessarily be in had you had the stability, had you had the support, had people supported you and not looked at you and been racist and thought, etc., XYZ about you for no apparent reason. So, extremely off topic. Oh, thank you. These earrings are from Pretty Little Thing, actually, surprisingly, and they're heavy too, which is nice. And I'm only saying surprisingly because I don't really shop that much, but I don't know where I saw them. And I was like, oh, I just love these. And they're fitting because half of the cases we talk about are about shifty people. So I'm just I'm gonna put my snake earrings on. Yes, I did. I did do my own hair. Thank you guys. You guys notice all these little things. But yeah, so I wanted to bring that up into us to have a little conversation about it. Because not I think, I know, because obviously I'm Black and I have friends that are also Black, and I have friends that are Asian. And it's interesting to see the intersection between what's currently going on and then as a continued struggle of the Black experience. And it's interesting to see people say like, well, I don't want to talk about it. Like, well, what did so-and-so do for me? And it's like, okay, well, so-and-so has done something for you actually, and we need to have a better conversation, because there is a lot of distrust, I think, unnecessarily and purposely spread due to white supremacy. This idea of the model minority is a complete myth. You can't have, it doesn't make logical sense to say like, oh, look at these people, see, they don't help anyone, all they do is care about themselves, but they're minding their business, they're doing everything right, and that's why they're doctors, lawyers, etc. And then turn around and see like, oh, but some of these people do account for a lower poverty level as well. How can you be both? Because the model minority myth is not true. It's simply inaccurate, incorrect. And I wanted to recommend, I follow her on LinkedIn, and I actually just found her Instagram, Michelle Kim. And I think on Instagram, it's under Michelle Kim Kim. She did a really good article about the relationship between the Black community and the Asian community, and historically how we actually have helped each other, and why the model minority myth has perpetuated this huge divide, and why we should overcome that, and why we should also unite and fight the real problem, which is white supremacy, which keeps all of us in problems, which allows people to attack us and then say, oh, I was having a bad day. Like, I have a bad day. I've never killed anybody. Oh, that's a great point, Jace. The model minority myth also lifts up sections of the Black diaspora. As a Caribbean person, yes, we are just as trifling. We are just as trifling, and I'm going to say that with my whole chest because I mean it. Caribbean people in this country, it's like, oh, you're Caribbean, it's different. It's a different Black. No, it's not. It's not a different Black. It's the same thing. And the model, the myth of that being like, oh, you guys are doing these things, you're not like the rest of them, without taking into account, slavery in this country ended the other day. I don't know why people keep acting like it's so long ago. If you are a Black person in this country, most likely your grandparents knew a living, breathing, formerly enslaved person. Speaking for myself, my great grandma Clara died when I was 102. Lord have mercy. When she was 102, when I was in college, and her grandmother was a formerly enslaved person. And she told me about her. She knew all about her life. Is a person that I knew, that I loved, and that I could physically touch. And was like, oh, look, they're here in real life. And they're like, oh yeah, I also knew somebody who I loved and could physically touch who was formerly enslaved. So this idea of pitting different groups against each other is nothing new in the US, and it only benefits, not to ostracize white people, but it only benefits white people. So just because you're a white person, that doesn't mean you are inherently racist. That's not what I'm saying, because sometimes people get a little antsy about it. But it does mean you do benefit from white supremacy, whether you want to or not. That's how it functions. So yes, the Irish and Scottish have also been degraded. I think that's definitely true. To the degree is not necessarily the same all the time, but yes, when the Irish first emigrated to the US, yes, the current form iteration of white people did not treat them kindly at that time, to which then they caused issues. There's a lot of like infighting and like different things. And I think it also shows one of the things that's important, one of the things that Michelle Kim brought up in her article that I think is really great. Oh, great. From St. Thomas Parish, from Forgotten Parish. I always tell people I'm from St. Thomas Parish. Yep. From Danvers Penn. And if you know where Danvers Penn is, that means we're probably related. That's the only way you would know what Danvers Penn is. But I always tell people it's important to realize, particularly when we're talking about people of color in general. Obviously, people of color are not a monolith. I personally hate that term. It really irks my nerves because it just centers whiteness. It just means non-white. So I don't understand why we all get bunched in together. But using that context, the only reason why non-Black American, non-African Americans have rights in this country is due to Black American / African American people. And I'm saying both because different people that originate from the United States that are Black American, some identify as Black American, some identify as African American. The only reason why the rest of us have rights, the only reason why my family could emigrate from Jamaica here is because Black people fought for all those rights here. The only reason why Asian people have the rights that they do now is because Black people fought for this right. The LGBTQ movement was Sylvia, was started and run by a transgendered Black woman, and that is built on the civil rights of Black Americans. So the only reason the rest of us non-white, non-hetero people have any rights is due to Black Americans. And yes, thank you, Chelsea. Chelsea knows. Chelsea and I talk about this all the time. I hate that word. Like we need I don't even think we need a new word. And I have no offense, and I mean no offense to the people that that have come up with the term BIPOC, which is to be more inclusive, because yes, we often forget about the indigenous culture here in the US and the indigenous people, which is very important to note that, which is a big point as to why BIPOC was created, Black indigenous, so it's stated there. However, again, we don't have the same life experience. I don't know why we're getting lumped in together when it literally means non-white. It's very rude. So I would hope that we can all band together to slay the beast that is white supremacy, that is oppressing all of us. However, and take back our shared voices, like our, my experience as a Black person is very different from someone that's an Asian person's experience. However, the same threads that bind us happen to be like, oh, look, we're both immigrants. Oh, look, we're from this socioeconomic class. Like your socioeconomic class can actually has more binding ties than your race, besides the negative parts. Like, if we go into the store, like you follow me in the store, I know why you follow me in the store. Like, it is what it is, unfortunately. And we need to free ourselves from that term. And I cannot stand that term, because also, to be honest, I do prefer the term BIPOC than minority. That term irritates the shit out of me for a specific reason. Like, what's minor about us, a people? And we are the world majority anyway, if we're getting all counted together. Like, the whole thing is stupid. So sorry for my little rant. But yes, during that English, okay. Hold on. Granite is from, hold on, I'm trying to, oh yeah, I know where Bath is. That's so funny. I love, St. Thomas Parish is the best. I would tell y'all to go, but then tourists will come and, some things are just for us. I'm just gonna be honest. But it's really great. I usually just use non-white. I think POC is a generous term of solidarity. We can discuss equity. And the term, yes, correct. You can't discuss equity in the term POC because it's different. Like, our struggles are not all the same. Like, we have to get back to the honesty of the matter. Black people in this country are treated awfully. Asian people in this country are treated awfully. You have to look at all of the data of who is getting paid the least. Latinx women. Wow. Like, where is the money? Like, who is paying these people? So you have to look at all of it together, but also separately, because why do we all have to get our voice washed over when we all have beautiful voices, but we can also, talk about all this. But yeah, so I appreciate all of you. Let me know if any of you want to call in. If not, I think we've covered everything. And I would say, just as a personal note and suggestion that you don't have to do, but something that I did notice, because unfortunately we live in America, which is a violent place. And when these things happen, I think it's important to, reach out to your friends. Keyword on friends, not your coworker that you talk to only on a Monday. Don't irritate that poor person. Talking about like your actual friends, and say, hey, are you okay? I just wanted to check in on you. No pressure to respond. Big emphasis on the no pressure to respond. Because sometimes the idea, Chelsea needs lashes, sometimes the idea of just like, oh, look, someone cares that like I'm going through this traumatic experience can be really helpful. So you don't necessarily have to give them this long speech and be like, I feel awful. And, I feel like I contributed to this and blasey blue. They don't care about that. They don't care about that. Like that, people, the human connection is important. And when things like this unfortunately happen, and when people are targeted for no reason besides the skin that they're in, I think it's important to empathize and to relate to your friend. Like, hey, I see you. Maybe I don't understand, but I see you and I want you to know I see you and I'm here if you need something. Because that shit is scary, to be honest. I was talking to my friend earlier and she was like, I'm terrified. And then I feel bad that I'm terrified. And that made me so sad. And I was like, that's how I feel sometimes. Like, you feel bad that you're afraid and then you don't want to tell anybody that you're afraid. So, just, reach out and touch somebody, as they say in church, but it's COVID. Don't really touch anybody. You know what I'm saying? But to all of that. But yeah. Racialized or marginalized. So Blood Honey said, I also prefer to use the term racialized or marginalized, infers that the structures classified our identities are often external to us. Yes, I think that's a good point. And that was one of the points I had made in like the Meghan and Harry video, speaking for Black people, that we have not been allowed to term ourselves. Like, what have we been? Negro, colored, African-American, Black, like, you know, like for all I care, if we all decided tomorrow, like we're gonna get called mahogany, like, woo, great. I just think people should be allowed to call themselves what they want to call themselves. It's like a point of respect. Oh, sorry. Also, y'all, I'm on this like fake table that I may or may not have took from my last employer when the pandemic started. And it's a little rickety. That's my karma for taking things. I meant to give it back, but they were trifling. So that's that. That's why it's moving, because my foot was on it. Sorry. It's not an earthquake. We're in New York. But yeah, I think that's actually a really good point that Blood Honey mentioned, racialized or marginalized. Yep. I'm gonna use that. I like that term because again, race is a social construct, but racism is very real. So yeah, on that note, you know, I keep it short. We have 50 minutes. Yes, F the system. I agree. So let me know if you guys want to call in. If not, we are good to go. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. You guys do something fun. Oh, I want to tell you, if you're watching this or if you're on the stream right now, I appreciate you. Thank you so much. My big 3-0 is next week, and I would love to get to 10,000 subscribers. And I know it's a vanity metric, and the only reason why I want said vanity metric is because then maybe I can get some wine sponsorships and pay off my student loans. Y'all know it's my only MO these days, to pay off my student loans. So if you haven't already, please go ahead and subscribe because that will help me get there. And I appreciate y'all. And I hope you guys have a lovely, lovely weekend or lovely end to your day whenever you're watching this. All right. See you guys later. Oh, yes. And insert the long, Lord, what's the thing called again? The long disclaimer I usually do. I was going to play like the Kanye one and I completely forgot. So as usual, this is not legal advice. I will never give you legal advice because you are not my client. So yep. All right. Bye, guys.